Union of the Unknowns, a podcast dedicated to the exploration of modern culture, presents a weekly digest of current events that may have slipped past your radar. This is not your mama's news.
Hello and welcome to the first Not Your Mama's News of the new year 2024. I will be your host this evening, Ashley, Think, Change, Repeat, and with me, as Keel would say, a true Sheila from Down Under, Stella Q. How are you, Stella?
Promise I'm not fake. Or gay, for that matter.
Definitely
I'm very
not.
good. Happy New Year to everybody, for what it's worth. Sun came up and went down just like every other day, but, you know, it's a new calendar,
It is a new calendar.
new pictures to look at.
Yep, and maybe a new planner if you have them, or something like that. New desk
Yes, so
calendar.
I can write all my non-plans on it. All my spontaneous events.
Right, or
Never happen.
hey, what if maybe garden plans? Now, I was just thinking you're actually heading into the sunset of your gardening season, I guess, because around here it's going to be time soon to start getting your seedlings going. You did see a putty tat.
I thought I saw a putty tat. Yeah, it's not quite over yet. We could still plant and stuff because I'm in a fairly, it's a subtropical zone, so it's fairly long kind of season. I could still put in a few plants that I'm not really meant to right now and probably get away with it. Depends what they do with the weather.
Right. That does definitely make a big difference in how we proceed.
It surely does. And at the moment we are getting warned at for more flooding and stuff like that up in the northern rivers here, which is sort of the flood zones from the hammering that the poor people in Queensland have received. So that basically all their flooding's now starting to come down into the northern rivers area. That's why we flood, because it's a northern rivers area.
So the flooding comes from the river?
Rivers, yes, quite a network.
Oh.
So when Queensland floods, we'll cop some of the water from them. Mm-hmm. Falls down the hill.
I see. Although geographically, I really need to be looking at a map to know what I'm talking about.
We're under Queensland, so if we're on a ball, it all goes downhill.
Are we on a ball, Stella?
I don't know, mate. Could be on a triangle.
We might be.
I never hear anyone bringing up the whole triangular Earth issue. What's wrong with triangles, you shapists?
What is wrong? They are shapists. And maybe we should start a movement, Triangle Earth movement. Society.
Yes, we should. We might even be able to get a tax-free status. It'll be the triangular church.
Hey, now that's something, because I'm no fan of taxes, as you know, and probably everybody here knows.
Oh, I love them. I stay under that threshold.
Humor for you.
I just work it, baby. I work it.
There you go.
Just don't fill it out. They're after me. I keep getting letters.
It is a silly, there's a silly meme out there about basically that if you don't do it correctly, then you will get arrested, put in jail, whatever. But if you ask them like, oh, so it's just this, it's just that. No, of course, there's a million different rules and regulations. And of course, you're not taught how to do that in school. It's honestly totally insane. I think that probably if people are listening to this, I don't have to tell them that. But I wonder if the average person could ever just sit down and realize how truly insane taxes and the tax system is.
Yes, it's robbery. Robbery. Robbery.
It is
robbery. It is. I mean, people don't think much about it because it's just, I mean, look, I can go with the whole argument about, well, if we don't pay taxes, we don't, you use the roads, don't you? You use the bridges. And I'd say, yeah, there's that. That's what the road taxes stuff is for. What about all the other stuff?
Right.
Oh,
And
why
the
do
other
I?
thing,
Why do I I probably earn less than these people earn per second in a year, and I don't even really generally owe them anything, but I still, you still got to go through the process, which I just
yes.
went, nah.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, is that people are so, they do get very addicted to the roads argument. But honestly, there would be ways and ways that we may not even consider or think about in a private, in a free market.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Humanity's pretty good at finding a way to do something, to get around something. And I must admit, I mean, human the ability of human engineering it blows my mind. It's incredible what some of the things that they've managed to pull off. It's amazing. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm sure we could figure it out.
I agree with that. And I think that, people love also, they think that the government, what about the roads, the roads. But as you said, or as we said here, that humans would come up with a way, right? They
Yeah.
made roads back in Roman times. So I think that people could figure something out in that regard. And the roads aren't
Yeah.
even well cared for.
Not in some areas, not unless you've got a poly living in your street.
Yeah.
Then they're really good. But look,
what do you mean a poly?
politician.
Oh.
Politician or a council member, which, same. The place that I used to live in Sydney, the road was really good. Lovely curb and guttering and nice footpaths or sidewalks, as you folks call them. Nothing to complain about. Everything worked well in the rain. Everything, went in the right places. But I think it was pretty much yearly. Might have been every couple of years they'd come and resurface it. It's like, what the? Like, why? Why do you do this? I think it was probably just to spend money so that they get the same budget next year and all that. Because if they don't spend the money, they don't get their budget is reduced, as far as I understand. I think that's how it works. That's why you see all these unnecessary things being done around the place. That's how it works here, anyway. So yeah, could never figure that one out, and I figured, must have a council member living down the road.
Yep, that would not surprise me whatsoever. So they don't want their cars to get all dinged up.
No, or even dirty. God
Yeah.
forbid.
Driving on these raggedy ass roads. Some of the places with the highest taxes around here in the States have the worst roads. For example, Massachusetts has a very high tax bracket. People pay a lot of taxes to live in Massachusetts. The roads are bad. Now, part of that is because of the winter weather, because you have a ton of freezing and snow, stuff like that. That's good. And then the salt and the scraping and all of that stuff with the roads.
Understandable.
That's probably the excuse. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you'd think in this day and age, if they've put a man on the moon, you reckon they could come up with a better road?
You would think.
Let's lay a bit of tinfoil down or something.
Yeah.
Wrap it in foil. It's like they did with the lunar landing thingy.
Yeah, that totally, definitely happened.
Mm-hmm. Don't you question it.
Don't question it. Do not.
So, what did you get up to? You've been not well, so you probably didn't get up to very much at all for the New Year sort of events.
Yeah,
period.
I did not. So we did travel for the holiday and visited family, stuff like that. But we ended up getting sick, and I got sick on Christmas Day, like that night. And so basically after that, I just have been at home the whole time, just trying to.
When you say, I'm sorry, when you say traveling, are you talking about in your car or in a plane or what?
Just driving. So our family lives a couple hours away. So we drove and ended up staying with someone a couple nights, like the night before Christmas Eve night. And then we traveled to other family within that area on Christmas Day. And then I felt, so normally I will get a lot of anxiety before the holiday and dreading and this kind of stuff.
Yep.
I didn't do that as much this year, even though I was really busy. But I just kind of was like, you know what, it's going to work out. And it did work out. But I didn't carry the dread and all of this
Anticipation.
baggage, yes, the anticipation, all that stuff with me. And I just was like, we're just going to go and we're going to do the thing. So we did. And for the most part, it went really well. And, but on Christmas night, we were going to some friend's house, and I was really looking forward to that because finally, you're done with all the family stuff. Now you can just kick back, relax, sleep in the next day, have some coffee. And of course, that is not what ended up happening. And I just was violently ill, like shaking. I got so cold that I literally was like movie shivering.
Yeah, wow.
And so needless to say, I did not have coffee with our friends, and I just felt like I was going to die on the drive home. And, but
so it's pretty severe and heavy.
But yeah, it was the flu, I think. And a lot of people in this area ended up getting the flu over the holiday. I mean, it was incredibly widespread.
Yes, that's where I was sort of wanted to get eventually with this issue. There has been some speculation and many people talking, since many more people are waking up to things like weather manipulation, etc., or weather manipulation, or what they're spraying. Nobody knows. If there wasn't so much secrecy, there would be less speculation. So come on, come out and just tell us, which they do, actually. You've just got to go digging. Regardless, whether they're spraying stuff to make things better or worse, we don't know. So there was some sort of theme about possible they sprayed us and that's why everyone's getting sick, because there seem to be a lot of people sick.
Yeah, that's what my husband and I talked about, was that, and I think actually he's not a normie. So I don't mean it like that, but he also isn't as into this kind of stuff as I am. It's just not his thing. Although he basically, he's like, yeah, I mean, he gets it. But he brought it up first. But I absolutely think that they sprayed us with something. Now, I was in discussion with some other people, and one of the gals was like, yeah, but I have people over on the West Coast that are sick too. It's cold and flu season. And I said, I agree, but I'm going to tell you that this is why it was weird for me this year. And part of this could be wrong because of just the study that I did during the COVID times. But basically, in an illness, you normally will have an incubation period of 3 to 5 days. And that normally tracks if you pay attention to people being around when other people start getting sick, usually about 3 to 5 days. Oddly enough, in this case, now part of me wondered if there was exposure just everywhere and people ended up getting sick at the same time coincidentally. But I was, as of, I was around children that were not feeling their best on the evening of the 23rd.
Right.
But even before that, I felt not sick, but just like, I don't know if I feel that great. Could I be coming down with
right
something,
at the beginning.
Yeah, but I didn't have any symptoms or anything like that. And I had normal appetite and normal energy and all that stuff. I wasn't sleeping well because I was traveling. But so then the kids were starting to feel a little puny by the morning of the 24th and the evening of the 24th. Then by the night of the 25th, that's when I was sick. And that's also when another family member got very sick, was that night of the 24th. And they only were exposed to the kids the night of the 25th, but they only saw them on the 24th for a few hours. Then another family member who was around the kids and me, I don't want to just blame the kids, who knows, but then it took them a couple days more. But I just thought, if I was getting sick from being around the kids, but I only saw them on the first time on the evening of the 23rd, and by the 25th, it hit me like a truck. So I kind of felt like that was a really fast incubation period, if that was truly where we ended up getting it. I have no idea, but I also looked into the believe, who knows what to believe, but apparently part of the symptoms of the flu is that you have a very sudden onset. Like you feel, not that great, but bam, then you're laid out
Real quick, right?
really
Go
quick.
down
Yeah.
fast.
Very fast. Yeah. So it was really interesting, but I thought the super fast incubation period, if that's what it was, seemed odd to me this time.
Do you remember having the normal flu before 2020, which is probably what this is? But regardless, do you? I mean, because where I'm going with this is, this the power of suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
So if people think there's a worse flu out there that's bioengineered, and like I haven't got any decisions fully on this because let's face it, no one knows. But my thoughts are that if there is an engineered flu out there, that what I'm asking is, do you think this was any different to any other flus that you've had in the past? Because it sort of sounds, like a flu. And I do remember you do go down pretty fast with flu, but I'm just wondering, since 2020, are we all sort of kind of programmed to think, oh no, this is so much worse? Is it worse, or are we just believing that it's worse? That's the question I'm asking.
That's a great question, and I'll tell you that I have an excellent reference point. So I'm the perfect person to talk to about this, because when back in I referred to as the flu of 09 for me.
Okay.
But basically,
most of us had a financial crash, but you had the flu.
I had a flu crash, and it was dreadful. I was literally green. I was the color of this gal, the Not Your Mama's News lady, of her legs.
Right,
bottom of the legs. I was green. Aqua. So seafoam. That was what I was going for. But basically, I remember it very well because it was a significant illness. So it was right around the holidays. It was Thanksgiving. I was around people, felt fine but tired. Then by the time I got home that evening, I was extremely sick, and it hit me very fast. And the flu, or the symptoms, were very similar in a way of this time. Mm-hmm. Sure, some of the symptoms were a little bit different, but the sudden onset, all the things, it was the flu. And so it was not like, this wasn't worse than that. This wasn't better than that, but that was the sickest I've ever been in my life, and I thought I was going to die.
Okay, I was just looking that up because I'm thinking, 2009, what was that? That was a swine flu pandemic.
I think
that's what I'm looking up now. It's saying 2009 swine flu pandemic.
I thought that was 12, but it could have been. But I was very sick that year, and I was not worried about swine flu or anything at that time, or really worried about it.
Right, but you remember it as a particularly bad flu, so therefore, I suppose that sort of is answering my question from your point of view, that maybe these flus are a little bit different in the sense that they're worse than your. Do you think you might have had flu in between 2009 and now?
Yeah, probably so. And I had even heard that you can expect to get a really bad flu about every 10 years, which would, if that's accurate, then
is that Fauci that said that?
No, I don't even know where it could have been. Yeah. If so, then that would track, because I was very, very ill. Now, here's the thing. If it depends on what we think that it is, because if we think that we're detoxing based on being around other people, if we're
as in no virus theory.
Correct. As in terrain theory, but also the body is stimulated into detoxing based on others that are detoxing.
Yes. Like a shedding thing.
Exactly. Or like, this is the way that I think about it, like a yawn. Right?
Like a sympathy detox.
Exactly.
Like a sympathy pregnancy thing that sometimes men get morning sickness, apparently.
Well,
I've never seen it myself. But
the thing is if women's menstrual cycles sync after being together, then that's not something that you can smell, see, anything like that. But we know that does happen. So that has to be through an exchange of pheromones and hormones and stuff like that. And then we have the sympathy response, as we're talking about, with morning sickness, but definitely humans yawning. So then how could we say that detoxing like a flu if we want to consider other theories besides virus theory, couldn't be what is happening. That I'm around people that are detoxing, and so my body is also prompted to detox.
It's something to ponder. It's definitely
Yeah.
something to ponder. We've lost
Yeah.
a few viewers, so maybe we might move on away from the terrain theory. Because I'm still a little bit on the fence with it, but
Sure. I mean,
yeah.
I don't
I'm
think
heading more and more towards terrain theory. The more I hear and read about it, it makes so much more sense. So,
Yeah.
and I think it is also possibly a really good cover for some other things. Putting my suspicious hat back on again. It is a perfect little cover for a whole bunch of other things, like they have alluded to the possible 1918 pandemic that they wrongly called the Spanish flu. Was possibly due to also at the same time, radio towers, etc., were turned on for communications. So
yeah.
who knows? And then the pneumonial, is that a word? Pneumonial bacteria that created a lot of the the bacteria that created a lot of the secondary pneumonia, and that was created from the mask wearing. So
From the dirty mask, yeah. And there's
anyway,
also
who knows?
some indication that potentially that was actually the Kansas flu, and that was a bioweapon as well. So who does know? And I'm not saying that viruses don't exist. I'm saying that there's a lot of food for thought out there to consider that the narrative that we've been told is probably not true, and that there's other stuff to consider.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's just normal science, isn't it? We don't understand everything. We have to allow ourselves to be teachable, which people like Fauci obviously don't, because he is the science. Away. All right. What have we got with news? What are we doing with the news?
And I did want to say really quickly that Stu said hello to Stu in the chat.
Hey, Stu.
And he said, talking about yawning made me yawn.
Yeah.
And he kind of warms to terrain theory as well. Yeah, I think it's food for thought. I'm not telling
definitely
anybody what to think.
worth considering for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, everything now is worth double checking, like all these things we've just, and myself included, we've just all been skipping along, living life, and this and that and that. And it's like, well, no, actually most of what they've told us is crap, as we know. I mean, echo chamber. But we just really have to shift our thinking, I think is the best way to put it, is just be more open to asking questions, double thinking, everything.
Yeah. That I like that. And the way that I consider it for myself is that I call it being open to having your paradigm shifted. If you're somebody that truly cares about the truth and finding out what is, what's the actual reality, then I think that we need to understand that almost everything that we have been told, and it can happen in a really short amount of time. We saw what transpired in 2020. And beyond that, they literally were changing the definition of things. They were fiddling with statistics. They were reporting the news based on that, all to create, as Stella has said, to create the history books of what actually happened. But we know that that's not true. So the history books are going to say that, oh, go ahead, Stella.
Oh, no, sorry. You continue.
Okay. That 7 million people died from COVID, but we know that that isn't true. So we know that the flu didn't exist that year per their numbers. We know that hospital protocol was very dangerous and killed people with remdesivir and ventilators. We know that the tests could be fiddled with, from the PCR test to just the at-home test being unreliable as well. So there's a lot of factors that, and we know that they deliberately try to make the numbers look higher to begin with. And they called anything they could COVID. So the history will reflect that 7 million people died from it, but that's not accurate. So if we know that they did it then what else did they do that with? And if they've been lying to us about medical interventions from the get-go, then I think you have to just think that almost everything that's been discussed from a top-down approach on medical issues, it needs to be reconsidered.
Yeah, well, I mean, just think if they're game enough to just change right in front of our faces, change the definitions of words so that they can twist things to suit a certain agenda. I mean, this is happening right in front of our faces. It
Right in
blows my
front of our
mind.
face. Yep.
But so then, if we've seen that, then how much more are they going to change history? So this is the other thing that we've got to consider is that history is a complete lie. And we've been through this a fair amount of times.
Sure.
Look at old books, etc. Try to grab some old books pre-1920, preferably. So yeah, how much more are they just? The whole thing is about fooling the masses. I mean, at the moment, I've just been chatting of doing a couple of clips from the Tavistock Institute book that not Jonathan Coleman. What's his name? Just left my mind now. Coleman, anyway. I can't remember his first name. I'm only about a third of the way through it, but it's something I've been meaning to do for ages, is sit down and read that whole thing or listen to it. I'm listening to it. It's an AI voice, so but it's bearable. It's actually not a bad AI voice. But I do highly recommend that you listen to that because it's on YouTube in an audio version, because it really truly does fully explain exactly what is going on right now and their tactics. It's like, if you want to know your enemy, go and listen to that, or read the book if you want to, whatever.
Yep.
Just make sure you do it, because it just explains so much. I mean, you've probably heard tidbits here and there. Oh, the Tavistock Institute did this and they did that and that. But when you hear it in the sequence, like the timeline, it all makes complete sense. If you want to know who they are, if anyone says, who are they, give them that. But then they're going to look at it and go, that's 6 hours. But then you have to explain to them, okay, well, listen to it over a week, buddy. Think about it. Like, you sit down and watch a 2-hour movie without thinking twice. So sit down and watch a 2-hour version of this 3 times this week.
Yeah, and speed it up. Listen on 1.5 speed.
Well, yeah, I this particular, unless you can find someone else doing a nice audio version of it, like maybe an organic voice would be nice. This particular AI is like, I can't even really speed it up, because I mean, you can speed it up, but then you miss. It's so involved. Like, you've got to really take in what they're saying to really fully understand it. There's no point in sitting down and just going, because you miss, I mean, some things that's totally fine to do that. But with this is really, really important. Like, this is foundational root stuff. So it's really worth taking in the information and, rewinding if you miss something. Rewind it. Listen to it again. Really look up that person. Look up that company, whatever. I fully invite people to do that. Turn freaking Netflix off and and put YouTube on. Oh, brilliant. You know what I mean. Spend your time listening to something that's going to teach you something worthwhile and make you wiser,
Right. Yes. And something that that is educating and edifying, as opposed to a time liability, as Richard Grove calls them.
Time liability. Yeah, very good, very good.
Yeah.
And also, even worse, being actually programmed, because that's what it's all about. They are programming. Everything you watch on Netflix is about being programmed, and you're paying for it.
Yeah, and it's being
Netflix, etc.
Shown you for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get into something a little bit later that might talk about another aspect of that as well.
Yes.
But in the meantime.
So collecting unfiltered news tube service said a lot of chemtrails, record heat, no snow, a lot of sneezing, COVID tests, best excuse for being hungover. Now, I will say that COVID tests, I also didn't trust them, particularly the PCR. What are they sticking up your nose? Maybe nothing, but maybe something.
Yep.
Drew says, Drew missing the point. 2019 to 2020 COVID deaths was 331, almost 332,000 deaths. So if we take out all the funny numbers and dangerous treatment protocols, we can still hypothesize that a more dangerous flu was released. Now, that I will buy, that the flu was fiddled with and then it was greatly exaggerated. Yes, 100%.
I'm pretty much leaning towards that too. So yeah, maybe a bioengineered thing or whatever, because I did have it twice. And yes, like you said, it was like you really felt like you're gonna die.
Yeah.
So I haven't
And
felt that. I've only felt that 2 or 3 times in my life, but this not definitely not from a flu. So this one was like, yeah, there was something different a little bit
yeah.
about it.
And I will say that even though it wasn't as severe as this most recent time, I've been sick several times now. So I was working with the general public, and I was not fearful. During the whole, once things opened back up, right? And then we saw the release of a medical intervention. Since that time, I've been sick probably 4 times.
Right.
So but like I said, I mean, they haven't been that severe, but I still felt like I don't understand why I worked all this time and I didn't get sick, and now I've been getting sick. Now, part of it could be, some of my own dietary stuff, like maybe I'm having too many polyunsaturated fats and things like that, but I still think it's weird.
Oh, totally. Everything's weird, so it all fits in very nicely. We're doing this big weird puzzle right now.
Yes, we are.
You pass me that weird piece over there, please.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Oh, no, that one doesn't quite fit. So we'll just have to keep looking.
Just hold on to it for later.
All right. We'll start with the corner bits.
Yes.
Oh,
dear.
Dear.
Alrighty.
Dear.
Well, yeah, so that's an interesting conversation for sure. And if anybody does have other feedback as far as their own personal experience of this particular flu season, reach out, share, send us a message. I would be curious to see what your experience was, or even comment on our videos here.
Yes, and you can find us. How can they contact us? I mean, we may as well do a little promo mid-show here. How can they contact us, Ashley?
Well, Stella, I'm glad you asked. So they can visit our Linktree as on our little scroll here at unionoftheunknowns.com. And that has all kinds of ways to get in touch with us. You can email us. Of course, you can comment on any of our videos. We're streaming Not Your Mom's News. We stream it live on Twitter. No, not Twitter. On YouTube, Rumble, and Rokfin. And you can also reach me over on the Unknowns Twitter handle at Union Unknowns over on X Twitter, as Drizzle calls it.
Yeah, X Twitter, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice one.
So, yeah, feel free to reach out to us, email us your...
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Oh my gosh, collecting unfiltered news. You're too much. You're too much.
I only just found out what that actually really is a few months ago. I didn't realize it was all just that. I thought it was like just interesting things. And no, right. It's not.
It's not. OnlyFans is very adult content.
I wish I had nicer feet. I could probably make a living. Maybe I could put Stumpy on there. Could I put a Stumpy OnlyFans?
You could try. It wouldn't hurt.
Stumpy's my lizard friend. The only one that still talks to me. All right, so
and we've been concerned since Stella's talking to the lizards, but we do like Stumpy anyway. So
yes, just keep an eye on me, will you? If I'm gone for longer than 24 hours,
or if you feel like you've lost a great deal of blood, let us know.
He's shedding at the moment, so I think I'm creating a humongous super lizard. Because he only shedded fairly recently, so should that have happened again? I'm not sure.
I don't know. Maybe Stu would know because Stu, he has some snake experience. I don't know about lizard experience, but he may have an idea on that.
It's funny. I've got this photo of the lizard with just his back leg is that's the only bit that's new. And you can see the skin is sort of working its way up the leg. So that's like the first bit. And it's sort of like the opposite of socks. It's really strange.
Drew did say that Klaus Schwab is also shedding.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, it must be the shedding time of year, I guess, for the lizard people.
And Hillary is also. She's the biggest lizard of all.
She has to take that skin off her face.
Yes, she does. Keep it moisturized. Ugh.
Frazzle something. Anyway, Do we have a story? Who would like to start?
We
Out of
do
all
have
you people.
we do have a story. I was thinking that why don't we go over your story? If you're ready, I've got it queued up. So let me know when you want me to roll that bean footage.
I don't really have a whole lot to say about it because it's fairly self-explanatory. I was just going to suggest one thing later to keep an eye on. So let's just roll it. It's pretty short. You can do 1.25 pretty easily.
Perfect.
Snap. We cleared our throats at the same time.
And and I normally try to not do that on air, but I was distracted.
Same.
And
I have no excuse.
I am going to make an excuse that my brain is fried from fever. How's that? Will you buy that?
Yes, I will. My brain's fried from... I'll come back to you on that.
Okay.
All right, let's have a look at this Outback train crash. Another way to look at smashed avocados.
Yeah, and let me know. Make sure you can hear all that good stuff. And but I'm going to roll it.
Trapped beneath this chaotic, mangled mess, 2 victims of a collision with brutal force. Police will allege a 75-year-old Queenslander caused this disaster when his truck crossed into the train's path on the Barrier Highway, 100 kilometres from Broken Hill. The crash killing 57-year-old grandfather Kevin Baker. His sister Wendy telling 7 News, "We are gutted by his loss." Also killed his Port Augusta colleague, 48-year-old Mick Warren, buried together under the wreckage. Police from South Australia and New South Wales combined as major crash investigators scoured the scene. Transport safety authorities are also working out how the crash could have happened. The crossing is signposted, has warning signals and a clear line of sight to oncoming trains.
If the lights are flashing, you don't even think about crossing the rail line.
The impact of this collision was so great, police say the road surface was damaged and needed to be ticked off by safety inspectors before reopening.
The Barrier Highway remains closed and it will do for some time. It's a complex scene.
It's already been blocked for more than 30 hours, shutting Broken Hill's quickest route to Adelaide. Drivers instead have to travel via Mildura, adding nearly 2 hours to the trip. The train's operator, Pacific National, released a statement saying it is an extremely difficult time and that the entire organisation is devastated by this tragic collision.
Over 15 million crossings a year and almost no incidents. That tells you that the great bulk of drivers get this right all the time.
The truck driver's facing 2 counts of death by dangerous driving and will face court in Port Pirie tomorrow. Tom Johnson, 7 News.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's terrible. That's awful and tragic, and my heart goes out to the family of the train drivers, of course.
Yeah.
I find it a little bit strange, though, because it's like, that's out in the middle of nowhere. Okay, so I'll just say it. I'll just lay it on the table. Where I'm going with this is I'm just going to keep an eye on it because that looks a little bit like a bit of a disruption to, supply chain, like the beginnings of, if you know what I mean. I'd love to hear what you've got to say about this, Drew, if you have any thoughts about this. Because, this is like a way out in the outback. The visibility is high. You can see what's coming. The lights to stop people going across the rail start well and truly in time. It just seems a little bit strange to me. It's also a miracle that truck driver survived, but whatever. He's getting the blame for this, right? So he's been charged, apparently. I don't know. It just, something's not sitting right with me. So I'm just going to keep an eye on that and just see what the insurance fraud. Yeah, maybe. I did notice a lot of Lindsay Fox's train carriages and things in the background, which is a business, transport business, very, very large one. I don't know whether. Anyway, all I wanted to do was put it on the radar. Really, I don't really have a full-on opinion about it at this point. But let's just see what Drew's got to say here. Oh, you got that at the same time I did. Okay, Drew says, I've been telling people for years that avocado is dangerous. He warns you off with its bad taste. The yuppies will be paying an extra $20 for their smashed avo toast. Yeah, I thought about that too. There's going to be an avocado shortage. But, I don't know. I could be way off. It could be just, a simple, innocent accident. There's always that possibility. I'm just going to watch the supply chain thing and see if things start happening a lot around the place. Maybe they already are and I just haven't noticed.
Yeah. So also collecting unfiltered news tube service says, remember that chemical spill train stuff that was ready. That's part of what I thought about as well was, sort of an overlap. Not that you had the whole mass hysteria over the poisoning that East Palestine saw, but there was a time whenever train derailments were really in the news all the time.
Yes, I know. Well,
States.
last year was, you could almost say 2023 was the year of train derailments, or was it 2022? I don't know. Time's just going so fast, isn't it?
2023, I think. But yes.
Ohio was, I think, about February, March last
Yeah.
year. So yes. And didn't that kind of disappear? I'm sure it didn't for the Ohio residents, but it comes and goes so fast. There's generally never a follow-up too much. And the follow-ups are usually within our community.
Right.
Just sort of pointing out all the weird things that are going on. Yeah, so Drew says if the foxes are connected, it's something to keep an eye on. I agree too. I thought that was a little weird that, I guess primarily, most of these things are Lindsay Fox stuff. But yes, something to keep an eye on, that's for sure.
Yeah, and manufacturing reality, Drizzle says, trains derail every day. The media only tells you about it when it fits their agenda. 100%. So because it was brought to light during this whole thing with the train derailment in East Palestine that it seemed like a really big deal. But then if you started looking at it, there was a lot of train derailments every year. It's actually kind of a commonplace, although not to that extent. But I do think that whenever you see something like that, almost as a theme, then we do have to wonder, is it a message? Was it truly just an accident?
Well, it's in the news.
Maybe.
So there's a reason for it.
Exactly.
I mean, there's no other reason we'd be seeing it exactly as Drizzle points out. And it was shocking to me to find out how many actually do occur on a daily, weekly, whatever basis.
Right. It's a lot.
It's absolutely shocking. Yeah. And I think that one probably made the news, A, because it fits the narrative, and B, they were trying to show us some things, and C, there was all that massive chemical spill, which was very, very bad.
Yeah.
But there was lots of chemical spills in other train smashes as well, but that one was particularly bad. So, yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that I was going to say about this too, I do think that food supply is under fire. I mean, I feel like that has certainly been something that a lot of people in the truth community have been aware of, especially since COVID times. It's really come to the forefront. And it has been stuff like that. So my other thought was seeing the railroad crash. Well, even if that particular thing wasn't the thing, what did he say? He said it's been shut down now for, it will be for at least a week. So that means that other through traffic that should be going there, it's going to be causing a logjam.
Exactly. That's sort of what, that's really the thing. It's like, as I said, they've got to go now. Traffic, which includes trucks with supplies, now have to go via Mildura, which is another 2 hours out of that extremely long trip anyway, which is just a horror show. So, I mean, it also points out the fact that, well, there's the only road there. Is that a great idea? Do we need more infrastructure, perhaps? I don't know, whatever. But, I mean, it's the outback. You wouldn't think that you'd need too much more than 1 or 2 link roads, but...
Right. And there's a lot of other things that happen like that in the States. For example, very important bridges just happen to be failing in the last 2 years, or there was not enough water in like the Panama Canal or something that ended up happening with the big ships in the Panama Canal. Oh, all of a sudden they're just jammed up. So it's definitely a theme.
Oh, it definitely is. Yes. Yes, the whole infrastructure breakdown sort of thing. I mean, they have to break everything down so that they can build back better and come in with their resolutions and their solutions. So we all know the story. That's the playbook. It's just we got to sit here and watch it all.
Yeah.
When you know, you know.
Yep. But I do think that it's worthwhile to keep an eye on, because this could be, this type of theme coming back, making a resurgence. It was sort of out of the news for a while, and it comes back whenever, as Drizzle was saying, whenever it's convenient and whenever they want it.
And they like to play cat and mouse, cat with the rat on the mat sort of thing. They like to, worry us and then let us, get the lull for a while and then
Yeah.
come back. It's just a wavy cycle thing. That's what they do because that's the
Sure.
control that they have. So it's sort of like I was only thinking this morning, it's like I went out in 2020, we stocked up with a lot of stuff. I've mentioned this before. We stocked up with quite a few things, and now we've got the problem of, we've got to get through all this stuff before it goes out of date, which already is out of date. A lot of it's a year old, but that doesn't matter a lot of the time.
Right.
Some of those use by dates are just crap anyway. But then I was just thinking this morning, oh, God, do we have to start stocking up a little bit again? Because, we're sort of getting a little bit now towards the thinner end of what we had stocked. It's like, should we be doing this again? And I don't want to get trapped again, but no, it's this uncertainty, which is the whole point of it.
Yeah.
But it still affects you, even though you know about it. It's just that uncertainty. It's hard to plan. It's hard to just feel okay and relaxed.
Yeah. And I think
fully,
that's definitely the
100%.
point. Yeah. They want people to have a feeling of unease, certainly, and uncertainty,
Yes.
And I
yes.
think that if you can keep people with this low level feeling of unease and uncertainty, and to a greater extent with some people fearful, then you really have the ability to control. They'll believe anything. For example,
That is
today
the Tavistock playbook.
in my neighborhood, I was walking my dogs and I saw two people that crossed the sidewalk so they didn't have to walk past me, and they were wearing masks outside
Right, okay.
on a cool, crisp, clear December day. Well, it's January now, but you get my drift. There's no reason for you. I mean, it is a whole thing, but how can you possibly still think that wearing a mask outside is beneficial to you?
Yep, got to keep them in fear. That makes them pliable. That's how Tavistock work. That's how propaganda works. So you'll probably find, it's interesting, isn't it? Sort of like the climate change thing is all about carbon dioxide levels. And what do we breathe out? Carbon dioxide levels. So it's almost like the whole thing is all just mishmashed. I bet those people are right on board with the climate change thing too. It's like, don't you breathe your carbon dioxide on me, woman?
Yeah. Somebody, was it Keel that was saying that it's basically a MAGA flag for the other side if you're wearing a mask these days? I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it's so silly. And I was actually talking to my mom on the phone at the time, and I was like, so let's just think about it from just a small little logical sample, right? You have the mask on your face. When you take the mask off, did you just fully wash and sanitize your hands? And even if you did you put it in a pocket, a coat pocket perhaps? Is your coat pocket sanitized? Could you have surgery in your coat pocket? No. Okay, so let's say that you want to put it in a sanitized Ziploc bag. Okay, well, let's look at the logical question there. When you were going into your pantry or your cabinet or whatever to get your Ziploc bag, did you wash your hands before that? And then did you sanitize the door handle? And then did you sanitize the cardboard box?
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
then your hand was sanitized, or is it a little bit contaminated from the Clorox wipe? And then you put it in your coat pocket. Well, your coat pocket's not sanitized because you couldn't have surgery in your coat pocket. So, and that's just one little sample. Tiny sample.
Little bit of logic there that you're just complicating everything with.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It doesn't matter.
Sorry, I remember in the early days when Propaganda Report was still Monica and Brad, and Brad was talking about how you had to sort of fumble around, to get by in certain situations. He had to wear the mask or whatever, and so one day he was in his car. It's like, I haven't got one. There was a used one in the back seat on the floor. Shout out, Brad. He just whacked that on his face so that he could, it was just the irony does not need to be explained to any of the listeners. I understand this, but it's still funny.
It is funny because it was about showing, it was the religious talisman, if you will. Yes, I submit to your religion. That's what that was about.
Yes, exactly. It's a submission.
Yeah. So anyway, crazy times. But Drizzle said uncertainty generates anxiety. Anxiety can be leveraged. Yes.
Yeah, that's
100%.
right. Going to keep us in those low frequencies like fear and anxiety and
Yeah.
uncertainty and all that. Yep, for sure. Makes us pliable.
Yes.
Makes people look for a leader instead of looking within for their own leadership.
Yes. Now, I have just a really quick little thing. I don't even want to get, because we've actually talked a lot, and
We have.
Yeah. So, and maybe one more topic that we want to touch base on before we head out. But you may remember me talking about the the president at Harvard that was causing such a controversy because she was being she was in a congressional testimony, and her comments were considered highly anti-Semitic, and the board at Harvard was standing by her, and it ended up costing the school like $1 billion in donations, which I thought was very hilarious. So her name was Claudine Gay. So she ended up announcing her resignation following anti-Semitic remarks made during testimony and accusations of plagiarism. So the replacement, this was interesting. It's a two-pronged interesting thing, right? Or maybe even three. So the title here is that Harvard appoints Alan Garber as a new interim president after he was seen nodding in approval during Claudine Gay's anti-Semitism testimony that led to her ousting. So point number one that's interesting is that Garber, a physician and economist, was instrumental in helping guide the school through the COVID-19 pandemic. Garber served as Harvard's provost since 2011. Yeah, and here's the thing is, what do you mean guiding the school through the pandemic?
I know these stupid statements.
They did the exact same thing. It was be over the top, push mask, distancing, lockdowns, and get your shots. That was it. So stop acting like they did anything special. So that's one thing. What I looked up when I saw this person was the Wikipedia page, because I was curious about the ancestry of this particular individual. But it says it right here in the title. Garber, who was born to a conservative Jewish family, was sitting behind Gay, nodding in approval. So I thought that was very, very interesting. So this particular article from the Daily Mail is making it sound like he's approving of somebody who's an anti-Semite, yet it's also saying that he was born in a conservative Jewish family. And then when you go to his early life on Wiki, it said that he was born in 1955 to Harry and Jean Garber in a Jewish family. So I don't really understand what are you trying to do here? I don't understand that. And also the reason that I ended up looking into this to begin with, because I was like, so if she ended up getting ousted truly, or resigning, whatever ended up happening there, then does that mean that they were going to put somebody in that position who had a Jewish background to try to ease the gap or the bridge of the people who have been really, really angry about this whole situation? So I checked it. Turns out he is of Jewish heritage. So I thought that was very interesting. But those are my three things first of all, that he was nodding in approval, that he's Jewish, and that he was at the helm during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite possible that she was set up to fall so that he could get his feet in there. It's like, I mean, she was the token black woman, so she played her part, basically. They put her in there, and can I say this? I don't care. I'm saying it. So they put her in there, and she's done that bit now, and now they need him there. So, like, he was probably nodding in approval. Good girl, you remembered that script well. Well done.
Right. Sure.
So I don't know, but that's sure what it sounds like to me, because, I mean, again, going back to the Tavistock thing, it's obvious. We don't need Klaus Schwab to stand up there and say, we have infiltrated the cabinets, because Tavistock actually said it long before he did, and it's out there. The methodology is out there for us to read and listen to, and then we would understand more what's going on. because it's exactly the playbook. So I just think, it's just a swapping of the, maybe the knight took a pawn or whatever,
Yep, I definitely agree with that. I don't think anything is going to change for sure, but I just thought it was interesting. And of course, there are people who are making it sound like it's like some sort of racist something or other. And I'm like, even when the left or the progressives are eating themselves, it's not that satisfying because they don't get it. That's part of the fun, to have this ideology. Yeah. If they're going to eat each other in a metaphorical sense, then the only way it's going to be satisfying for me is if somebody faces natural consequences. But that never happens. And nobody ever wakes up to the fact that all of this stuff is absolute nonsense, and that they've been basically pushing a cause that there is no logical consistency here whatsoever. Like, they never wake up. So it's just not that satisfying.
Yeah, we're up to that bit now where there's, lots and lots of inquiries and, there's a few other words. But, all these pollies standing up questioning people in hearings and things. And it's like, nothing's going to happen. It's all just, we're up to this chapter now, basically. So we're going to see a lot of that. We already are. We're going to see a lot more of it. Stuff all's going to happen. If anything does happen, it's just a play. Somebody goes to court, they get questioned a bit, they get the slap on the wrist, or they supposedly go to jail, which is questionable. We know how it goes now, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely just a show. And Drew said the greatest anti-Semites are those who proclaim to be Jews. Now,
yes, they are. They created anti-Semitism to cover their tracks.
Right. So my question is, are you talking about like this guy at Harvard, and do you think he's a real anti-Semite, or do you mean that he's
You're asking Drew?
Yeah.
Me? Right.
Drew. But I mean, feel free to chime in. I just think it's an interesting discussion to be had in general, because it's so thematic right now in our faces. But the seeds of bringing back anti-Semitism as a huge issue have been being sown for quite a while, obviously. And here's another one that really gets my goat. They love to say that Trump is anti-Semitic. Okay, how? How is he anti-Semitic in any way, shape, or form? His son-in-law literally is
Jared Kushner.
a Jew, Jared Kushner, who is very into the faith, is my understanding. His daughter converted to Judaism. We know that she's his favorite child. And he's also been seen at the Wailing Wall, and he's supporting Israel as we speak. Now, I'm not saying
as just about every president has been to the
sure.
Wailing Wall.
Yeah, they all have. Yeah. And I'm not saying that supporting Israel actually means that you support Jewish people or anything like that. I get that. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, if you are proclaiming in today's clown world, that's what you would say, to say, look, see how much I love Jewish people. So the anti-Semitism claim has just lost any sort of sway. It's just like racism. When everything's anti-Semitic, nothing is. When everything's racist, nothing is. When everything's sexist, nothing is.
Exactly. Yeah, well put. It's just their ploy to slip things under without people really seeing the true nature of what they're doing.
Yeah, so it's actually
again, it puts people into fear and anxiety, because then people soon become worried about what they're going to say. If they say what they think, are their friends still going to talk to them? All that kind of thing.
Sure.
So we all need to put the big pants on for what's ahead, I think, and just really, really be convicted in how we feel and how we see things, and be more informed, and really, choose where we sit and stand by it, sort of thing. It's what it's going to take to make change is stronger people, instead of just this sway of, tossing around with the waves.
One thing that I was going to say too is it's basically like dog training, that they have essentially a Pavlovian response for a certain percent of people on either side. So as soon as they hear the word racism or anti-Semitism or sexism or you name it, whatever ism, then it's a trigger. And what it does is to allow them to essentially not hear what is being said by that individual. So it certainly is a good gatekeeper for critical thinking, because they just hear that, like mainstream media said that this person's anti-Semitic. So now I know I don't have to listen to them or even think about or consider what they said.
It's so MK Ultra, isn't it? Because it's just like, there's the triggers, they sort of tell us that, MK Ultra is this and that, but I think it's, they're using it on the people. They just are.
Yes. Oh, for sure. It's been mass exported, 100%.
Yeah. And we're not really aware of the fact that we are under their influence as much as we are, which is why I keep harping about get off Netflix, etc. I know it's boring. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stop. I'm going to be as annoying as hell forever. So.
And I did want to say, so Drew said there is a difference between biblical Hebrew versus today's Jews. They aren't the same people. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
True. Very true.
That's a whole area of study of that's a lot of I don't disagree, but that's a lot of information that's
not our show.
No, that is
your show.
That's a deep dive right there. And I do think also Robert Sefer does quite a bit of discussing this topic, but that's a lot. It's a lot of information out there.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He does bring good research. Hate the way he shows his car off so much, but whatever. Is that where the subscriptions are going? Oh, you're not having a midlife crisis, are you, Rob? Anyway, that sort of kind of segues to another little thing I just really quickly didn't want to dwell on too much, but we probably will. The movie called Leave the World Behind, is it?
Yes, Leave the World Behind.
All right. Now, apparently the Obamas had quite a bit to do with this. I think it was probably putting money up or whatever, and they were consulted, like they were consultants. That's about all I know about it. First thing I heard when the Obamas were linked to this movie, I just went, that's odd. Like, that's weird. Does anyone else think that's weird? I don't know. I think that's a bit weird. So there's a reason, or millions of reasons probably. I just want to harp back to something that we've talked about a number of times on this show and on WTF Forum. Shout out to my friends there. Some are in the comments chat right now. About the patents that have been around for a number of years. Now, I know that a lot of those patents do go back to the CRT type televisions, the big fat ones. But I think there are other ones that can possibly involve not so much the LEDs, but it does involve the LEDs because it involves flickering light, etc., which is much quicker than the eye can detect. But so what started this line of thought off was a little bit of a chat that I was having with one of our friends in the Discord propaganda report group. We sort of just basically were chatting about this movie. And she said how she's watching the film, and Sam Tripoli was saying how it had very bad energy that's unexplainable. Then she says, I started watching the film, I started the movie, barely anything happened, and my cat immediately started acting weird. There is some woo-woo frequency shit. To which I replied, is that the movie that the Obamas were involved in producing? To which she said, yes, it is. So, yeah, I think I heard similar things about The Sound of Freedom, apparently, allegedly having some kind of, I don't know, frequency output, light output. I don't know what it is. I haven't seen much about it. I mean, it's not like they're going to come out and say, well, this is how we did it. You have to dig. And so that brings me again back to the patent list. I've spoken at length about some of this. Hendrikus G. Luce, who was apparently some person who applied for a number of patents along these lines. Pulsative manipulation of central nervous systems. So, I mean, we sense the world around us by our nervous system and our endocrine system, which are both under attack So I'm just going to read a few of these patents out. Okay, so the one I just read, pulsative manipulation of central nervous system, that goes back to 1998. 2011, control brain state by placing engineered EMF patterns into the AC wiring of a building. What does that remind you of? I'll tell you. Havana syndrome. So that's possibly how they did that. Induce desired brain state in person by adding waves into a music file. It's 2014. Manipulation. Subject brain waves. Manipulation. I think it's meant to be manipulate subject brain waves via frequencies emanating from computer and TV screens. 2001. I could go on for another hour. I'll still read a couple more out. There's a whole bunch by this Hendricus G. Luce person who is, it's speculated that's a made-up character. So the CIA can hide behind somebody. Okay, so 1953. Reads subject brainwaves by applying light stimulation to brain and reading response. Okay, so like if they had that figured out in 1953, you can just imagine where they're at now. Controls human behavior via targeting human brain with ELF, extremely low frequencies, EMFs. That's 2016. See, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I could read out, which is just, some of them by the same people who come back and do another patent a couple of years later because they've made some advances on their previous patent, etc. But again, I will say having a patent doesn't necessarily mean that this stuff has actually been created. They're just patents, but it doesn't mean they haven't either. And I think we only have to look around at some of what the military has. They've already talked about how they've got the the Jews and the high energy weapons to for military use, and as we know, they get used in other things as well.
Yeah, so I was going to chime in here. Drizzle said the Obama's production company made the movie, and yes, I was going to say that they're part of who produced the movie. There's definitely some race baiting that took place in the movie as well. There's the comment that you can't trust white people. So one of the things, though, on this particular topic that I wanted to talk about was that in the movie itself, so this is an analysis by Vigilant Citizen, and it said on several occasions, people are paralyzed by a loud noise. The redneck prepper played by Kevin Bacon says it's not all that dissimilar to what happened in Cuba a while back. Microwave weapons, they call it, produces a kind of radiation that can be beamed out through sound. Some people lost their teeth too. And then Vigilant Citizen goes on to say that in 2000, let me shrink this down here. In 2018, they posted an actual U.S. government file about remote mind control. This stuff is real, and they want us to know it. So it has a little bit of a graph here or a visual, and it talks about microwave hearing, transparent eyelids, artificial tinnitus, forced manipulation of airways, including externally controlled forced speech, wildly racing heart without calls, forced memory blanking. And there's a lot on this. I'm not going to read everything, but it says the first unclassified successful transmission of the human voice directly into the skull of a living person was performed by Dr. Joseph C. Sharp of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research in 1974.
That's the voice of God technology.
Okay. By transforming a hypnotist's voice using the Lowry silent sound or Smirnov scramble methods used in the Gulf War, it's possible to hypnotize a target without the target being aware from hiding, leaving zero trace or evidence. So basically they do a good little deep dive here kind of on the stuff that you're talking about. And it's not exactly the same, but it is. And then it talks about in the movie, the guy actually loses his teeth. It says Archie, who represents the future of men in America, becomes sick and loses his teeth due to the attacks. Like his father, he is rendered useless.
1996 makes voices emanate from individuals who do not intend or realize it, the ventriloquist effect. It's interesting they point out the teeth too, because there's another one here, patent number US 6239705B1 from 2001. intraoral electronic tracking device that can be implanted in teeth and dentures, etc.
Now,
They think of it. They think of everything, don't they?
This is something crazy that the guy who actually got me waking up, he talked about that. He thought that his father's teeth had been meddled with because he was in the military. And this was years ago. He told me about this. Yeah.
Right.
So this may actually be worth an entire episode on, really. And I do have to start winding us down as much as I would like to talk about this, because this article also has a ton of other stuff that I would like to talk about in this movie.
Right.
But I do have to wind down. However.
Okay. Yes. I just wanted to say that I won't be participating quite so much in Not Your Mama's News this year, because, well, there's a lot of reasons actually. I basically need the time back in the middle of my week at this point. I've got to try to reinvent myself a little bit with business, etc. So I probably won't leave you high and dry, though. I was sort of thinking maybe I can just do a once a monthy gig, something like that, like maybe the end of the month. Because I don't want to sort of, I mean, I don't particularly want to do this, but I just sort of, I kind of have to in a practical sense. So,
right.
So yeah, I'll still sort of keep in touch and everything, but hopefully some other people will step up and you'll get some guests or something, and things will carry on as usual. So yeah, probably the end of the month I'm sort of going to head for, I think. So yeah, it's been lots of fun. I'm not saying goodbye or anything, just saying I'll see you in a bit, I suppose.
Yeah.
As far as format goes.
And you and I have talked about this some as well. And I figured that, at the very least, maybe take a little time off, take a little step back, and just kind of see how you feel, how it goes. And,
yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to, work and what's not going to. So as you say, it's just sort of a time thing. I also, I think it's, I sort of don't want to speak against the principle of the show or anything, but I personally need to get my head right away from the news a little bit. Like, I don't really look at the news. The only reason that I do is generally is for this show. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm going to be completely 100% cut off from everything. Of course, that's impossible almost, but I just don't want to have to look at things and do lots of research that I'm just normally. It's such crap. I mean, it's just, particularly in Australia at the moment, it's sort of like, oh man, trying to find something that's not, boring as bat poo, or just so stupid or ridiculous or just unimportant, whatever. I don't know. The whole thing, I just need to unplug from the news. I'm so over the propaganda at the moment. Maybe I might even bring something along those lines, right? Maybe rather than bring a news item, I might bring maybe a propaganda type thing or something like that. Because all I'm really interested in is exposing, putting the spotlight on the bull, really, and exposing people that are in the shadows or whatever, just like the rest of us, just like everybody else. I'm nothing special. So that's all I really want to do. And on a collective energy kind of level, I don't particularly want to participate in the news loop, the endless echoes of news, putting my energy into it. So that's just my personal feelings. I'm not judging anyone else. So there. No.
Well,
but I really appreciate, I love the interaction that, people are bringing with the comments and the chat and everything. It's heaps of fun. Please support whoever's left. I mean, Ashley's obviously going to keep going, I guess. Are you? I didn't even ask. Sorry.
Yeah, that's my plan for now, is to keep the show running over here, and we'll see how it goes. I don't know how viable necessarily it'll be if it's just me here. And I know it's not always like that, but we just don't know. So we're just gonna see. We'll see how it goes.
Let's throw it to the wind. We don't always have to have everything completely planned out perfectly.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going away fully. I love you too. Yeah, not going away fully. I just need a little bit of time back. I'm actually falling a little bit behind in some of the things that I need to do, and I just need to get my act together a little bit better. Yeah. So that this is like bang in the middle of my week and sort of takes pretty much basically a whole day out. So that's because, I like to be a little bit prepared and whatever. That's my own fault for putting a lot into it. But so that's the reality.
Yep. and we're going to play it by ear. And, of course, you and I are going to keep working together in other capacities. So,
oh yeah, I'm not leaving Union of the Unknowns. I'll still be doing that,
Right.
but that's only a couple of times a month or something. So
yeah.
I'm still, you haven't got rid of me yet.
Yeah. And, we'll be, oh, Drizzle said you have entire communities to draw upon, Ashley.
Yeah. I figured
sure.
you'll be right. You'll
Thank
be
you.
right.
Yeah, so we will, we're just going to see where it goes. And you may decide after having a couple weeks of downtime that, maybe you, like you said, once a month or something like that, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, I'll say I will do the once a month thing, just so
Yeah.
keep my finger in the pie sort of thing in that sense. But yeah, see how things go.
Yeah, we will.
Time will tell.
But at any rate, I have been very happy to do this episode with you. I've enjoyed it. We've done a little more, a little less newsing, a little more discussing, and it has been a lot of fun. And I certainly appreciate everyone in the chat. Always love seeing you people there. Really appreciate that. And so I've highly enjoyed it, and I'll look forward to working with you again soon, Stella, probably maybe this weekend.
Very possible.
Yeah.
Highly probable, in fact. You can't keep me away.
Yep, definitely. And I'm going to probably try to jump on the WTF forum. So I think we'll be in good shape. Alrighty. Well, having said that, I guess we will wind this one down. Thank you for being here, Stella. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, everybody. And we will talk to you later.
Yes. Well, thank you, everybody, and hope you had a good New Year's and all that stuff. And have a great week. Love your guts.
Not Your Mama's News has been a production of the Union of the Unknowns podcast. New episodes are available weekly on all your favorite podcasting networks.